welcome to my channel. Today we'll be making this thread catcher with either the pin cushion top or the loop strap that you can see here. So let's get started. First of all, you'll need 2 fat quarters. I've got some Debbie Shaw fabric here, birds and bobbins, and 2 coordinates. You can use any fabrics you like. Mine are cotton. You'll also need some interfacing. I have fusible medium weight. You can use boning, or this is packing straps that come around the boxes. You'll also need some tools, cutter, ruler, scissors and a pen, and also if you're making the pin cushion, rice and stuffing. So here's the templates. We need the bucket walls, 1 inner, 1 outer and 1 interfacing. The base, 1 inner, 1 outer and also an interfacing. 2 squares, 1 inner and 1 outer for the pin bag, 1 for the strap, 1 for the scissor hoop. And if you're making the loop instead of the pin cushion, you'll need a strip either 6 or 12 inches long, and we'll be cutting one of them out of these fabrics. So here we have our fabrics all cut, ready to go. As you can see, you only need a small amount of the fabric, so you might be able to get a second bucket out of the fat quarters you have. So let's get started. So first of all, we're going to make the pin cushion part of the thread catcher. We have to make a strap to go between, so just fold your strap in half and sew down one side and then turn it right sides out. And here I've put the seam down the middle, and I'm just going to top stitch 2 more lines of stitching to strengthen it. With that done, we now take 2 squares of fabric for our pin cushion. Decide which one you want as the top and place your strap with the right side facing that one. So I've chosen the birds, so I'm going to face my strap down in the middle of the block and then place my bird's fabric on top of that, sandwiching that strap between, and just pin that in place to hold it until you've sewn it. Now open up the 2 fabrics, and we're going to roll this up and secure it in place so it's out the way of when we stitch around the other sides of the fabric. So pin that in place like so, bring the fabric back down and then pin the bottom, lining it up with the bottom of your other fabrics. Secure it with a pin, and we're going to put one more pin on one of the sides just to hold it in place, like so. This side we're going to leave a gap for turning, so what we're going to do is we're going to sew from here all the way around the edge and stop, leaving that gap. So we've sewed all the way around, we've left the gap for turning, and we're just going to snip off these corners. Be careful not to catch your stitching, as it will cause holes to appear. This is to just help when turned out that there's no bulk in the corners. So that's done. We now turn it right sides out. Remember to take the pin out that's holding your strap in place. We don't want to stab ourselves. So if we pull this right sides out, I like to use a knitting needle just to poke the corners out. Be careful not to press too hard in them corners, because you can cause your pointy tool to go through your stitches and make holes. So just gently tease it in each of the corners, and then obviously that's our gap where we'll put the rice in later. So that's our pin cushion and strap done. We're now going to add on our tab for our scissors. So we're just going to fold this square in half, right sides together, and sew down one of the short sides and the long side, and leave an opening for turning. So there we have it sewn. Just need to tuck this end in. This will get sewn when we sew it to the strap or the bucket later. It's up to you where you want to place this. You don't have to put this on at all. You can leave it off and just have no scissor holder. Just make sure that's down inside there so we'll catch it when we sew. And then when I'm doing the pin cushion one, I like to add it halfway down the strap. So find the front and just sew one side to one side of the strap and the other side to the other side of the strap, and that's how you create your little scissor holder. Here it is done. So as you can see, a line of stitches down one side and a line of stitches down the other for our scissors. Again, I'll show you later how to attach it to the bucket portion of the thread catcher later on. So let's get started on that bucket. So I've got my outer fabric, my inner fabric, which I've attached the interfacing to, and then the two bases, the interfacing is on the inner part. So to start off with, we're going to fold the walls right sides together and sew just down this side. I like to do a 1/2 inch seam to make sure it's good and strong, and we'll do the same with the outer fabric. Place them right sides together and sew down that short side 1/2 inch. So now we've done that, as you can see, there's the seam. We now need to mark it so we can put these bases on. So take your circles, fold them in half, and then open them out and fold them in half the other way, matching up them 2 points. Now we have 4 points to match up when we do the base. I'm just going to mark these with a pen so you can see them a bit better, like so. And then for the walls, make sure your seam's nice and neat and lay it out flat, and then mark opposite that seam. Then open it out. Open it out so that point matches your seam down the side, and make sure you get it nice and flat, and then mark either side of that. So you should have 4 equal distant points away from each other, like so. Now we're just going to match up the base with the bucket walls. So match one mark with this side seam. I like to open my seams because it reduces the bulk when I sew around. So we're just going to open that up. We'll put a couple of pins in just to hold that in place. That's it. Now we go to the opposite side. Bring the base so that them 2 points match up, and then place another pin to hold. You can also use clips if you want to use clips. I just find pins hold it a bit better. So we'll do the same on either side, match up them marks that we made. So we're just going to stick a pin in there, hold them 2 pieces together, and then work our way to the opposite side. and do exactly the same thing. Don't worry too much if it doesn't line up completely as you go round the bucket. So now we're just going to do halfway between 2 pins. So just bring it up and just try and line them edges up as best you can. There will be a little bit of movement as you go round anyway with the sewing machine, and you can adjust it how you like. But this will be at the bottom of the bucket, so you won't see if it goes a little bit wrinkled in places. So just keep going round. Put as many pins as you like. I don't put too many because I don't want it to stick in my machine and break a needle. But if you want to go real slow and take them out as you go, that's fine. So last one. So just pull the fabric, try and adjust it. There we go. So that's the inner done, and we're going to sew around the top, and we're going to do exactly the same with the outer bucket marking. So here's my 2 buckets, inner and outer. Now to get this to lie a little bit better when we turn it right side, you can snip in to your seam allowance. You can either snip in just single snips, or you can do like little V's like this. I find that a bit tedious, so I tend to use these, which are called pinking shears, technically scissors with a zigzag edge, and I just work my way around the seam allowance, careful not to touch the actual stitches, and I just go around the edge of the bucket like so. And as you can see, I've got a zigzag edge. So to put the bucket together, I've turned the outer fabric right side out so that when we put it together, the 2 right sides of fabrics are touching each other. I'm going to line up the side seams along that edge like so, and I'm just going to place a pin here just to hold it a minute while I grab the pin back. Now if you want to do the loop, if you go to the end of the video, you'll find the instructions of how to put the loop in, but this one I'm going to show you how to put the pin cushion. So you just drop that inside the bucket between the layers like so, facing your outer fabric. So I'm just going to line it up with the seam like so, so it's centered like this, and then you just bring the other fabric up and tuck that right in there so it's out of the way of stitching. I'm just going to open these out. Let's just make sure it's sticking out enough that it's not going to drop into the bucket, because you don't want to miss it as you sew around the top. Let's just open this seam to reduce all the bulk at that spot. So like so, and that, and we're just making a little sandwich. There we go, and we'll pin with a couple of pins to keep that all nice and secure. That's it. And now you just pull the bag out, try and make it as level as possible, and just work your way around the bucket, lining up the top edges and pinning as you go. Just go all the way around, stretching that fabric out, getting it as flat as possible. Just put a few more pins like this. We need to leave a gap for turning, so I tend to leave it at the back near the seam allowance. So that's it. We've sewed all the way around the edge. As you can see, mine's 1/2 inch down from the top, and here's our little gap for turning. So let's turn it out. There we have it. There's our pin cushion strap for weighted, and as you can see, we've got the inner all the way tucked down in it, and there's our gap for putting our bit of either packing strap or boning, depending on which one you have. We're going to have to make a little channel for this to sit in, like so. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew 1 inch down from the top all the way around the bucket part to create that. So here it is, sewn 1 inch down from the top all the way around, and we've still got the gap to slot our boning in, or packing strap. You may need to take your base off the bottom of your sewing machine, so that you can do it like you would a sleeve to get it on, but you can do it the other way as well, leaving it on. So we're going to just slide this in here and go all the way around till we meet up with it. I think I'm going to have to round this end off because it keeps snagging on the fabrics and the interfacing that's inside there. So this goes in like so. Just wiggle it all the way in and around in that channel. Like I say, it might catch on the stitches, especially where your seam is at the back. So if that happens like that, so yeah, it's stopped moving and I can feel it, and it's just here at the back where the seam is. So if you just pull it back a little bit, wiggle it and massage it, you can even put your finger, if you gaps at the back, you can put your finger in and just open that up a bit to push it through like so, until it comes back around to the start, like there it is. And you want it to just overlap just about 1 inch or 2. So I'll just trim that off, round that off as well, so we can get it in without catching. I'm just going to tuck that back in, and I like to make it so that they overlap at the back again where that seam is. So I'm just going to wiggle that back around again, and there we go. And this gap here we're going to now sew up by sewing the top stitch all the way around along this top edge, and that'll close that up as well. So there we have it, sewn all the way around. So our boning or packing strap is inside sealed, and it helps the bag stay open, but it also keeps the bucket and gives it its shape better with the interfacing. So let's move on to the pin cushion. So to make it weighted, we're going to add rice. You could add plastic beans, pellets, dried peas, whatever you like. We just need a little bag to put them in. I'm going to take some of these out so that I can get it through the turning gap. So let's just squish this in here. Oh, hair in the bag. So we're going to put it through our turning gap. And push it all the way down to the bottom. Like so. Make sure you get that in. So once that's in, we're going to just try and get it into the corners. Open the bag up, and I've got like a little cup with a funnel for a spout to it, but you can use a little funnel if you've got one, and just pour a few tablespoons of rice in at a time and just let it drop down into the bag like so. Just add a few at a time so that they go down like that. Shake it. Just add a few more. You want it to be weighty enough that it stays on your table, but you also need to leave a little bit of room for your stuffing so that when you put your pins in, you're not stabbing into a bag of rice or beans or whatever you've used. So I'm just going to seal that up like so, and then stuff that back in. And then just give it a bit of a massage, making sure it's all all the way out to the corners and nice and level. And then we're just going to add some of this stuff in. You can also use scraps of fabric that you've got that you don't want, or if you've got an old cushion that's got some stuff in it, just use that. So just keep massaging it till you get it as fat as you want. You can use a knitting needle like I have here to shove it into the corners. Make sure it's nice and plump for them pins. Just gonna add a bit more. And once you're happy with how stuffed it is, we're just gonna sew up this gap. You can hand stitch it, you can machine stitch it. I just hand stitched it because it's just easier. I'll show you what it looks like. So here it is, hanging off the table and on my machine, as you can see. That's quite nicely. Now this is if you want to add a loop strap to it instead of the pin cushion. You can make this as long as you want. Mine's about 6 inches long, but you can double that length if you want, make it a longer loop depending on where you're going to hang it. And you just, like before, sew down one side, turn it right sides out, put the seam at the back, and then top stitch down it to give it strength either side. Here it is. And you're just going to bend it to make that little loop for hanging. So here's my bucket back. Remember, right sides together. Find your seams. There we are, 2 seams. And we're going to be adding the strap either side of that seam. Side seam there, like so. And you want it pointing down into the bucket, so you can just see the ends popping out at the top. So I'm just going to put my 2 seams together, open them out flat to reduce bulk. Just put a pin here, just to hold it in place while I put the strap in. So, tuck this down into the bag like so, and just either line it up with the edge or just over the edge, and then this end is going to go down and come back up the other side. Remember, if it's longer, try not to twist it. We don't want a twisted strap. And then just come up the other side of that seam and line it up and pin in place. And then, just like before, open your bag out so nice and flat. Line up them top edges and pin in place all the way around. And then we're just going to sew around the top again. And remember to leave that gap for turning. So I've sewed all the way around. There's the strap. I've got the gap still here for putting my boning in. So like I said, we're gonna do exactly the same. Stitch 1 inch down from the top, add the boning inside, and then stitch around the top edge. So there we have it, our little thread catcher basket with a loop instead of a pin cushion. Now this is the scissor tab. You can either add it like we did before to the strap, either side, entirely up to you. I like to add mine to the bucket itself when it's a strap, so I'm going to sew mine just down here, just because I think it looks better being in the middle. So we're just going to find the centre so it lines up with the stitching, well, the side seam should I say, and then I'm just going to place a couple of pins to hold it in place. I'm just going to stitch back and forth down either side so it's strong enough to hold the scissors. So here it is, our finished bucket with the strap. As you can see, you can hang it off the top of your sewing machine if you want. I hope you liked my video. If you'd like to see more crafts and sewing videos, please check out my channel. There'll be a link at the end here, as well as a clip of another video. Thank you.